All set.
All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. Hope everyone remains well. Why don't we start with the consent agenda items 1 and 2, since we do not have reports from the Friends or the Foundation.
I'll make a motion to approve items 1 and 2 on our consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. All right. Moving right along to the treasurer's report.
Okay, so I'll start off with income and expense reports. So we're a little bit up in the air right now with how our income and expense reports are looking, mostly because our fiscal year 21 budget has not been settled yet. What we did is we are balancing our reports using $587,000 from the town as the number. And we are using that because that is what the town treasurer has in for us from the budget committee and town council back in, I think it was March or February. So once our fiscal year budget is settled, then we will have our meeting most likely at probably the October or November trustee regular meeting. Will set our budget then once we have a better idea of what our final allocation will be. So that is just a little bit of a technicality right now that we have, but we are using our fiscal year 20 budget. So I had spoken with Karen, who's our office administrator, and I felt that it would be appropriate to base our percentages off of fiscal year 20 because our year should not be much different from last year. So you'll see in July that staff benefits might have been a little higher, but that is because our July through December health savings account distribution goes in around this time. Some anticipated expenses in the next month are we have a broken window on our children's program room. I believe it happened in the winds from the tropical storm because we noticed it the day after, and something must have hit it and chipped the window. So we do need to get that repaired pretty quickly. We also have a lot of cleaning supplies. We are cleaning a lot. We cleaned pretty frequently before COVID happened, and now it is just extensive. So you'll see cleaning expenses. Our fire suppression system had an inspection that was regularly scheduled. So that is going to be coming up in our expenses. Our siding was scheduled to start last week, but the contractor has delayed a little bit. So I am following up with him to see when that will start happening. And we are going to need a plumber. It never ceases to amaze me how many working parts there are to this library. So, after a lot of use, our toilets in the women's restroom are needing some repairs. So that will be upcoming as well. We are still reconciling fiscal year 20. There were still some shelving purchases that had been authorized by the board. And that is something that we have been working on for a while, but we needed the representative to come here from New Hampshire to measure our shelves in order to purchase. And of course, we tried to do that before we closed. And so we are still reconciling that and a few other things. But there was a preliminary fiscal year 20 budget report in your documents, and we're looking pretty good there. Any questions about income and expense reports?
I have a question.
Sure.
I know you don't do the reports, but some of these reports, I print them all out tonight. I printed them out in the past, and I'm trying to understand how we handle things. It looks like for July 2020, even though this is what I would call a profit and loss statement, we show the budgeted amount that was approved, but the actual expenses running against it for income. Is that how we're handling it?
I believe so. And are you looking at, what does the heading on the page you're looking at read?
Well, it says Statement of Financial Income and Expense, July 2020. What it looks like is, for whatever reason, we break out, which is a good idea, I guess, funds we have in Bank Newport and what we get from the town and the state, et cetera. But it looks like the budget, the amount, the grant in state, we just assume we're going to get that in the first month.
Yes.
Well, again, that's not how, I'm not going to say it. That's not how normally I would do it, but I guess that's how you're doing it. But I guess that's how you do it. But I guess what you're doing is later on, you have some sort of a reconciliation, which I printed down, which is, okay, here's the beginning amount and here's how much we charged against it. And here's our ending balance. Okay. I guess that's how you're doing it, but okay. It's a little different for me. That's all.
And I will point out one thing that says, where it says grant and aid, state funding, and it says town operational, 587,000. That's the actual town allocation. But because our grant and aid has not been set from the actual state yet, that is not in there. So it would be closer to around $710,000. But because that's not settled yet, it's not in there. And the state sends our grant and aid funds to the town, and then the town treasurer updates our balance sheet once that comes through.
Are most of the bills paid from town accounts, even though they show up on the library P&L or a statement?
Yes, okay. They're paid through the town. Mm-hmm.
So the town treasurer, she's the one that she takes care of all this. She puts these reports together.
So this is from our QuickBooks, and our office administrator Karen puts them together. So we can change them if we'd like to. If you would like a different view, we can certainly do that.
Well, no, every time I've looked at it, it looks a little confusing to me, but I do have another question.
Sure.
And again, I don't want to take up too much time, but
it's okay.
It might be a sidebar type thing, but we have unrestricted funds. Is that an accumulation of excess funds over the years?
Yes, that's correct. That is what happens when we receive money for fines and fees and printing in our budget. So if somebody loses a book and pays for it, then we put that into our Bank Newport account. And oftentimes what will happen is then we go and we purchase a replacement item for it, and that will come from our collections budget.
So the unrestricted is probably monies that you've received over and above what you think you budgeted, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And
that's fine. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I don't want to take up too much time. I'm just trying to understand it. I printed it down. Like I said, I printed it for each meeting, and this time I spent even more time. But it's a little clearer, but it's better.
Okay. And the report that I really go in depth on is the operational budget versus actual. That is what I spend a lot of time on each month looking at, just to make sure we're at the level where we need to be as far as the year goes, that we haven't spent $20,000 on books in the first month, things like that. So that is, I think the budget to actual is a little bit better of a representation of where we are from month to month.
I would agree. Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Catherine?
Yes.
If I may. So on that same page that, and we're at the top and it says income, and where it says grant and aid, state funding, should that actually be town allocation and grant and aid, state funding?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So that label, maybe in the future we could correct that.
I think some of the titles are a little not as descriptive as I think they should be. That's why it took me a while to kind of walk through these. That's fine.
Okay. Yes, we can certainly change things to relabel them. That is absolutely totally fine. I'll take a look at those. Okay. Any other questions on income and expense? If not, I'll go on to Bank Newport. Okay. So Bank Newport, so we do have a negative fines balance right now, and that was because if a patron returns a book that they had previously previously claimed as lost, we do refund them for that. So we had settled that with them. That's why it's showing a negative balance. And we also did not have a bank deposit in July, just because we have not had, a significant amount of printing being done, things like that. So we have already made a deposit in August, so that will change next month. We also have our program and event expenses, and those are attributed to our movie license, which actually we were able to extend our subscription beyond 1 year. So despite renewing that license right now, it is actually extended. I believe it's until November 2021. So we're really hoping that over the next couple of months, we'll be able to offer movies even at a limited capacity, and we'll see how that goes. But that is extended beyond the year. That was one of the conditions for me to okay the renewal of it. Our online programs, we do have some presenters who have been presenting online programs, and also, of course, program supplies during our summer reading program are something that we are always having expenditures on around now. That is it for Bank Newport so far. Any questions on Bank Newport? If no, I'll move on to fiscal year 21. Okay, so fiscal year 21, I know I had just sent you all the official document today, so I'm sure, 22 pages of fiscal year 21 budget is a lot. So if you were to just go to page 16, you'll see our one line item for the town for the library. It is at $585,001. So that does meet maintenance of effort on the budget committee's part. And that was set, I believe they met last week. And so that was set last week. We are still waiting to see what budgets will be on the financial town referendum ballot for, I believe it's the end of October. And we will definitely, I'm sure, talk about that as the date gets closer and we're able to see, just to make sure that we're meeting maintenance of effort. The thing I did want to point out is that if we do not meet maintenance of effort, then the town risks losing around $120,000 in library funding, and that would have a pretty substantial impact on our budget. Something else that is having a substantial impact on our fiscal year 21 budget is the lack of capital funds, and that was something that the town had said they would grant us $15,000 in capital for fiscal year 21 back in February or March. And so now that we do not have those capital funds, our siding repairs and any other capital expenses will be coming out of our operations budget. So if we're having to spend around $15,000 on capital expenses this year, that is automatically a 3.5% decrease in our operating budget. So that will be something that when we get closer towards our budget being finalized, that I will discuss with the budget subcommittee and ultimately with the full board as far as finalizing our fiscal year 21 budget goes. And let me just check my summary and make sure I hit on all the points that I wanted to. Yes, I did. If there's any other questions, please let me know. I will also mention electricity next in property, so I have not forgotten about that expense.
So,
Chris.
yeah, let me just ask a question. So just because I don't know, or you may have mentioned it, are there any ongoing fundraising efforts right now from any source? I'm not even sure if it's the foundation or the library, Friends of the Library, if somebody does that. Is something like always ongoing, or is there any particular campaign?
So there's no particular campaign right now, but the foundation typically runs their campaigns towards the end of the year around the holidays. So I'm sure that will be something on their mind. I'm actually meeting with them, and Kim, I know you will probably be in the meeting Wednesday night. So we'll have a better idea of where they stand as far as fundraising efforts go. I know as far as the Rhode Island Foundation goes and the money that they do have with them, there's been very little increase in the funds there just because of how things are going right now. Yeah. So the foundation, I'll have more details on. The Friends did have to cancel their book sale, and they have also canceled their craft sale, which were the two major funding sources. The Book Nook is open and it's actually doing quite well, which we appreciate folks coming in and paying for some books to take home. So the Book Nook's open and doing well. And also the Friends receive funding from the Clements and Lee's receipts that are donated by our patrons, and they receive a percentage back from Clements and Lee's. So as far as funding for the Friends goes, they have a small amount coming in right now. And of course with membership fees.
Okay, and the campaign that the foundation is going in, is that just the regular annual?
Yep, the
Okay.
annual ask.
Okay, all right.
Question,
Andy?
sorry. Two questions, actually. The grant and aid from the state, was that reduced this year?
So we do not know yet.
Oh.
I just heard today from the chief of library services that the governor's budget is now expected in September. And the state, I believe, has to have their budget enacted around October. So we're cutting it pretty close. So we do not know yet, but it is anticipated that the fund that all public libraries receive state grant and aid funding from will be flat funded this year. So that is something that we'll want to keep an eye on. We ended up, so last year, we originally thought we were going to receive about $122,000, and it ended up that there was additional funds put in that larger fund from the state at the 11th hour, and we received around 125,000. So we did have a little bit of an increase last year. So we'll see what happens there.
Just to follow up, if I might.
Sure.
The unrestricted fund, can that be used for operation expenses?
So it could be in an emergency situation.
Right.
One of the things that we had talked about previously was that, you know, if all of a sudden a staff member who is here and only receives individual health care, was married and had a family, and that happened during their time as they were employees here, and we didn't have enough money in our operating budget to cover the individual to the family plan, then that would be something that we would make up for.
Yep.
We also purchased our propane tank with unrestricted funds last year, so that was more of a capital expense. But that is sort of our emergency fund.
So it's kind of more of a one-off type thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or if we
Okay.
had like something catastrophic happen to our building
Gotcha.
and it wasn't covered by the town, we would use that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, any other treasure questions? I don't see any hands. So I will move on to property. So on July 28th, we had an engineer from Demand Management Institute visit and perform an electricity audit. Traditionally, once the audit is finished, the engineer sends their report to National Grid, and then National Grid sends it to me. So this can take a couple of weeks. So I'm not surprised that it has not hit my inbox yet. I will follow up with them this week, as it is sort of at the 3-week point now. The engineer who came down did give some preliminary suggestions about changes to our HVAC. I learn a lot from the experts. It gets into the nitty-gritty about types of sensors that we would want to put into our HVAC system. It's something I can definitely speak with our GM Refrigeration, who is our HVAC servicing company. I can speak to them and sort of get a price of what the cost would be for those sensors, but essentially it would help us be a bit more energy efficient. I did see that there were spikes in the teen room and children's program room because the doors are open to those two rooms outside while we have outdoor browsing options right now. So this is very much temporary, but I did adjust those thermostats to be higher more recently. So I'm really hoping that this month's electric bill if it was attributed to that, then perhaps we'll see a change. But it's really, really difficult for us to gauge what's going on when we just receive a bill once a month. I almost wish we could sort of check our meter every couple of days on a schedule so that we were able to see if we make changes, that it would be an immediate change. So it really is something that I just have to leave up to the experts to advise me on. And I wish it were a quicker process, but it's a lot of waiting to hear back. So that seems to be my general luck with any building maintenance. So I'm working on it. We're getting to it. And I will hopefully have something very, very soon. And I'll send that along as soon as I do. Any questions about our electricity audit?
Not about the audit per se, but electricity in general. I've been in the library, but quite honestly, I've never really looked up at the ceilings. Are there fans?
We do have, yes, yep, we have power fans up in the main area of the library over the computers. I think we have 3 of them. So we are able to turn those on when, it gets a little toastier. So we can certainly do that. Something that the engineer did mention is that the most efficient buildings are very aggressive with how they time the zones being on and off. So that's something that is very difficult for us to do right now. So we have 5 units on the roof that give us heat or air conditioning. And so I am only able to adjust the full building temperature. I can adjust certain rooms, but as far as the schedule of when we're open and closed and the schedule fluctuating with the changes in temperature, that is something that I would like to be able to change. Say that we're gonna turn off certain rooms at certain times. That would be very helpful to have. So I know that our software program, the computer that runs that program, is going to probably need to be replaced next year. So I would like to see if we can have an upgrade to the system so that we can do certain things like that. But that is quite a ways down the road, a couple months down the road. So, and yes, the building is 5, will be 6 years old, but if you think about it, your average computer, which is what runs our HVAC system, is going to need to be replaced every 5 or 6 years or so. So stay tuned. Okay, any other questions? All right, I will move on to the director's report if that's all right. So I'll start off with statistics. And once again, our E-zone statistics have been fantastic. We are really seeing that our patrons are loving our E-zone and are definitely using it. So it is, well worth us continuing to curate that and really promote that. Between both libraries, we had almost 1,800 visits in July and over 200 pickup orders fulfilled. So we're thrilled with our patrons feeling, safe enough to come use our library services. We're really happy with having that volume come through, and it has been difficult to keep up with the cleaning, but we also feel that the limited building hours help because it does give us a chance to deep clean once we close, and also our custodian is cleaning before we open as well. So that has been a great opportunity for us to be able to provide safe library services during this time. Our weekly visits to the farmers market have been a wonderful outreach opportunity, and our virtual programs have been very popular. I'm thrilled that we can offer book clubs online. We can still offer workshops and seminars as well. And right now, as far as statistics go, I am working on our OLIS annual report. So that is utilizing all of our fiscal year 20 statistics, and I will have that finished by the middle of September. Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's actually for everybody. I listened to the budget committee the little clip about the library, and I understand, well, when people are saying, oh, the library isn't even open. And it's like, I was just trying to figure out, I understand certain people are going to say that no matter what, but I was trying to figure out how we could get, how we could let more and more people know. And I'm not exactly sure how you can do it, because you've got it in the newspaper.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if you can do another, I don't know, something with Newport Daily News or Fall River Herald, or even another thing with the Second. I don't know if this kind of time is written so much, but I'm not sure if we have a publicity committee that or something, because it's not getting through, because it was, one person said it was closed, but even though you have other people on the budget committee saying, giving all the hours and saying no, it's open, if you look at your statistics, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. And I know, I mean, I've been going more to the library, and every time I'm there, some other people are there. You know, people are coming and going, and the word is not getting out. And I'm not really sure what we can do to do that.
I made a screenshot of the graphic that you had sent, Catherine. I forgot which file it was in, but you had one with, you know, here's what happens when you come to the library and here's what's available and what's not. I made a screenshot of that and I've been posting it on my Facebook page.
Oh,
I'm wondering if maybe, like, it's very cheap to advertise on Facebook and it's targeted advertising. So we could actually do something if we wanted to vote on something like that, like seriously cheap.
Yes, and I
Do
think
like a 3-day run or something of that graphic that comes up on, you know, any Tiverton residents page, just to so people know that we are open.
because I know that your friends, some periodically I've looked at the friends stuff. I know that they, you know, they're well aware of all the stuff that goes on, but you know, what I think what bothers me sometimes is that we're preaching to the converted. They already know all that stuff, and actually they're the ones that come up with the with the display sometimes, and it's like there's other people, and I just don't know. I mean, you just have to keep on saying it again and again ad nauseum, but I'm not even sure it's you know, if other people in town government, if they're on board with us. I know there's
so.
a lot of detractors.
Yes, and also my report to the town that I usually send, that's included in the town council meeting packet, that is actually due tomorrow, so that's why you haven't received it. But I am actually putting in that report what our hours are for building and also services, and also talking about Union Public Library a little bit. So to hopefully get that word out. I did actually include there was a press release that went out from the town about what services were open for the senior center. I made sure the library was on that as well. You know, Facebook, the newspapers, we have our e-newsletter that goes out. So we're kind of hitting all that we need to, but I like the idea of Facebook advertising. I think because right now we are limiting our programs to summer reading and certain select seminars that we definitely have enough program funds for that. So I would like to see if that's a really great idea and we can put that in there.
Yeah, you know, I'm not trying to give you more work. I was actually doing it more for everybody.
That's okay.
No, to see if any, and I was trying to figure out if, you know, everybody's got emails, or if we could come up with some, or the foundation. I don't even know who it would be, but it's really, I find it very annoying that people continue to say, you know, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't, you know, and it's just like, you know, I'm not sure, except as you just gonna keep on saying it over and over and over again.
Yes.
But also to keep expanding. Yeah.
So, yes, I agree. And I'll actually approach that a little bit more in depth under our COVID operations update next. But I did want to mention one more thing for statistics before we move on to that. So if that's okay, I'll just mention that. So Union Public Library right now, if you've driven down to Four Corners, you may have noticed that there's some construction going on at the cheese wheel. So if you remember in the past, there was a verbal agreement between Union and the owners of the cheese wheel that Union Library would have 2 parking spaces in the cheese wheel parking lot. And there's even a lovely library parking sign there. But recently, the Cheese Wheel is under new ownership and they decided to expand. I think it's great that small businesses in the area are expanding, and I look forward to seeing all the great things that the Cheese Wheel will do. So Union Public Library is working with the Cheese Wheel right now to try and ensure that those 2 parking spaces will remain, especially during Union Library events, which are not happening in person right now. They're happening virtually. But when those book clubs do happen, they have over a dozen people there. So the parking spaces are really helpful to have. And especially for those who have mobility issues, who would like to get into the library, those parking spaces are pretty essential. So I would like to advocate that just in a more public forum than I usually do, that support for Union Public Library Association and the Cheese Wheel, working with them and them working with the Cheese Wheel to ensure those 2 spaces are there. I believe Union Public Library Association also had hoped that the Board of Trustees would write a letter of support for Union Public Library and a partnership with the Cheese Wheel for those parking spaces. So I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that at this meeting, because the zoning meeting is coming up, I believe, in the beginning of September, which is before our next regular board meeting. And I know Carol has her hand up, so go right ahead.
Yes, and actually the deadline is closer than that. The zoning board of review meeting is in September, but the deadline for submitting any materials relevant to the proposals or cases that they will be hearing is this Friday. So if we want to take up Union Library's request to issue a formal letter, and we would have to have that as an item that's noticed on an agenda as a discussion, possible vote, we would have to hold a special meeting essentially this Thursday, because we need 48 hours to notice it. I would have to the soonest I can draw up the agenda and send it to town hall is tomorrow morning. And then 48 hours puts us on Thursday to get, if we do at that meeting after our discussion decide we want to send a letter, to authorize that at the meeting on Thursday so that it can reach the zoning board on Friday. So Gail Lawrence just really, I think she wasn't aware of the deadline or our need to notice an item that we're going to vote on. But I guess my question would be then, are enough people available on Thursday to attend a special meeting? And we can discuss availability. And if so, at what time? Is the interest there? Is the availability there?
I am interested and available.
I'm interested. I have to go look at the calendar.
Sure.
I'm available.
I'm available morning or afternoon.
Okay. Catherine, is there a time on Thursday that works for you? So Kim, nothing later than what time?
5.
Okay.
I assume it will only be a short, like
Yes,
Okay.
it would be very short.
my son has a dentist appointment at 6.
Okay. So 5 p.m. Yes, it's not going to.
I do just have something between 1 and 2, but that is the only commitment I have on that day so far.
Okay. So this Thursday, August 20th, special meeting at 5 o'clock, that would work for everyone?
Yep.
Okay.
You said it would be short. It would just be.
But it's just the one item to take up Union Public Library's request that we issue a letter. And so we would have to, discuss it and vote.
Okay.
All right.
So wait a minute.
Well,
We're voting
look for that
on the letter
tomorrow.
itself?
Excuse me?
We're voting on the letter itself?
I think we will have I anticipate although I don't know if they're aware of it, that Kathy and Catherine would work together to develop a letter that we could actually see at our special meeting and review the language to see if we, were in agreement and whether we wanted to authorize a letter going out,
Okay.
under our name, essentially.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
And you said Thursday, August 20th at 5 p.m., correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll make sure to set up that Zoom link for everyone. Okay, I think that covers my statistics update. I'll move on to operations if there are no other questions. Okay, so we had under COVID operations, things are a little different right now, but we did have a soft opening for our adult collection stacks on Thursday, August 13th. We'll be sending out an email tomorrow that the stacks are open. And why we've done sort of soft openings is to make sure that the services are working safely for everyone and to make sure that the flow is working and all of our signage is working correctly. So our stacks for the adult collection are open. We have had a lot of fun with having outdoor browsing for our children's collection and also our teen collection. I really credit our head of children's services and our young adult librarian with coming up with some creative ways to make sure that we can have access to those collections. I did attach an up-to-date flyer. I know Kim had mentioned it earlier. That has sort of been our go-to of, here's everything you need to know before you visit the library. But I also know that some folks, they may have questions. So I would really encourage them just to give us a call during our regular library hours. And we're more than happy to walk them through what's going on here at the library right now. The comments that Chris had mentioned at the budget committee meeting were made that the library was closed, and this is untrue. Our building hours are different from our regular hours. So the building is open, limited hours, as opposed to what they were prior to COVID, but we are here and offering pickup and phone reference services during our regular hours. So right now, if somebody called the library and said, I'll be there in 10 minutes, can I pick up my items that are ready for me? We'd say, absolutely. We'll pack them up in a bag for you and they'll be out on the porch for porch pickup. So I would just like to take a moment and thank all of our wonderful patrons for their support. I know I can speak for myself and all of the library staff when I say we have really missed seeing everyone and are so happy that we've found a way to provide safe services for our patrons. We have all worked very, very hard here, especially with support from you all on the board in making sure that this library can still continue to provide those services. So thank you. And thank you to our patrons. And again, if anybody has any questions, I'm here, 625-6796, extension 6, or anybody can email me at director@tivertonlibrary.org if they have questions. Okay, so that is it for, yes.
Could I just hop in?
Carol.
I do want to mention that Tiverton Library is providing more services than any other public library I am aware of.
Yes, we are.
Even through the South Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to be very proud of. And also I wanted to note that the Rhode Island Library Association in their monthly newsletter did a wonderful focus on Tiverton Library and the services we are offering. So I think we're recognized among state libraries as sort of being in the vanguard. Now, this might be, it certainly is a case of preaching to the choir because this newsletter goes out to people who are members of the Rhode Island Library Association, so sort of part of that in-group. But I was so pleased to see that when I opened up the newsletter and said, oh, Tiverton.
Yes, I don't know of many other Rhode Island public libraries who have kept services available for their regular hours that were there prior to COVID, and we have been able to do that. So that is a feat unto itself. But I know, Chris, you also had a question?
Well, no, just a comment from that. Okay, so is it possible to take a picture of that article and paste it on Facebook? Because I've
I
seen it on other Facebooks. They've taken pictures is that possible?
For the Rhode Island Library Association newsletter.
That particular article, to
Yes.
just take a snapshot of that and post it on the Facebook of one of the Tiverton Facebooks and say, see what they've done.
Yes.
So
I think we'll definitely try for that. I'm gonna consult my social media experts here at the
yeah,
library.
I've seen it. I'm not yeah. I just let that one go away.
Yeah, I'll see.
Is
if
it on our
there's-
website?
Hmm?
Is it on the library website
I've seen.
article?
Oh,
It was
who's
an
you
email.
asking?
I'm sorry?
It was an email newsletter that went out from the Rhode Island Library
okay.
Association. So I'll see if it's on their Facebook page and we can share that. Okay.
All right, shall we move on to new business?
Sounds good.
Location of the September meeting. We generally meet in September at the Union Library. That certainly would not be large enough for us to have an in-person meeting there. So I guess the issue is, do we want to attempt an in-person meeting in the community room at the library, or do we want to continue having Zoom meeting in September? Comments?
I have a question.
Mhm.
How has it been going with municipal court using the community room?
It's been going very well. We have a very good working relationship with the court staff, and they've been great to work with. We have to really set down some hard ground rules about occupancy and mask mandate, no food or drink, things like that. And it has worked quite well.
So given that, do you think that, safety wise, it's reasonable for us to consider being in the community room?
I think safety wise, yes, we are still a ways from allowing public meetings and the general public to using our rooms. And no other library in the state right now has their meeting rooms openly accessible. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on. So I think it would just be a trustee meeting that would be able to happen, mostly because of the cleaning. And as much as I would love to clean and offer those rooms, because I actually love cleaning, it is really extensive and we have limited staff right now. So it would just have to be sort of like a one-off trustee meeting.
Carol.
I'm not sure that we can meet in person there and not allow the public to join us.
That's a good point. Go ahead.
Also, we would, if we're sitting near each other, we would have to wear masks and probably need microphones to be, because I don't know, I haven't tried it yet, but projecting through a mask, I think is more difficult. I've heard that people have to speak much more slowly and repeat themselves. And
we also only have one microphone, so we're very hesitant to share equipment here at the library right now. And also our occupancy in the community room is set at 13, so I'm not sure how that would work. I actually don't think the town council has figured out how to make their in-person meetings work. So that is something that I'm also making sure that I keep an eye on as well.
Is anyone wedded to the idea of going back to in-person meetings as soon as possible?
No.
I'd prefer Zoom.
I would as well. Chris, Sandy?
I don't.
No, I think Zoom would be preferable. I was just thinking when Mrs. Herman said something about the public would have to be invited. The only way they could actually see the meeting would be if you set up some sort of a screen outside of the community room where they could gather in the library, and that would give you another technical issue in terms of trying to accommodate them. It couldn't be done easily.
Agreed. And I would sort of like to see how other libraries start doing this and how the town council does this before we were to jump into that idea.
Yeah, and speaking, following up on Mrs. Herman, I know I've spoken to people on the phone, I'm not on the phone, but in person, like if you go to a store to order something, you're trying to speak through the mask. Understanding them speaking to you and me speaking to them, I can speak loudly, but even still, it distorts your verbiage.
It does, yes.
Yeah.
So Zoom it is.
All right, do we have that as a possible vote? Do we have a motion to have our September meeting via Zoom?
Yes, I'll make that motion because our calendar actually was posted on the Secretary of State's website with the September meeting at Union because that's our tradition. So I'll make a motion to change the location of our September meeting from Union to a Zoom meeting.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Item number 2 on new business. Request to carry over vacation time. Catherine, do you want to comment on this?
Yes, I would like to request that both of our head of children's services and our technology coordinator be able to carry over their fiscal year 20 vacation balance to fiscal year 21 due to extenuating circumstances, mostly, of course, COVID-19. There was 10 and a half hours left over on the head of children's services balance and 2 hours on the technology coordinator's balance. If you remember, our head of children's services has just done a phenomenal job with our summer reading program, and that program in and of itself had to completely be revamped, and she had put so much time and energy into that she did have a vacation balance remaining. And also our technology coordinator had just come on board in April. So there was the conversion of him being from part-time to full-time, and there was a lot for him to catch up on. It is something that I don't anticipate us having to do again next year. I think this was a one-off extenuating circumstance. This had been done back in summer of 2018 for another staff member. This type of carryover was approved because of short staffing and that staff member not being able to take vacation time around then. So that is my request and a little bit of the background as to that request.
Any comments?
It seems like a reasonable request given the global pandemic and the fact that it's really not that many hours.
Do we have a motion to approve this carryover for these 2 employees?
I'll make a motion to carry over the was it 1 week?
10.5 hours and 2 hours for the 2 separate.
Okay. So I will make a motion to approve the carryover of the hours from fiscal year 20. Yes. Okay. Of the head of children's services and the technology coordinator for their vacation time.
Do we have a second?
I'll
Second.
second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
All right, Catherine, I should have asked you as part of the director's report. Could you comment briefly on the graffiti that was found?
Yes, we did find some graffiti on the front of the building, and there was some sort of substance on our stairs. So I am in the process of making a police report. The Tiverton Police Department was here last week, but they did have to leave on a call. So we're reviewing our security footage and making sure that's documented, but I can definitely speak a little bit more about the security footage offline.
Okay. All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right. I vote to adjourn. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Good night,
Good night,
everyone.
all.